So your first question is consider the following statements. So it's regarding Guptas. Okay. So as I said during the first discussion, regarding Guptas, Mauryas, your Sultanate, the peak of your Sultanate and Mughals, you must be very clear about the administrative structure. Okay. And their imperial achievements. Okay. The history of these emperors must be very clearly known, at least the major portions of these empires. Right. So that you must be very clear about. Now, look at the first question. Matrimonial alliances helped Guptas in increasing the extent of their empires. Now, is that correct? Yes, it is correct. Okay. Because now, see, this is a very general statement because matrimonial alliances was part of almost every empire in history. Okay, it is very difficult to make this question question wrong, right? Even Mughals, even Sultanate, everybody use matrimonial alliances. Okay, this is very difficult to make it incorrect. Anyway, so did matrimonial alliances help? Yes, very prominently. Okay, very prominently they were helped by the matrimonial alliances. Okay, why? If you look at Guptan history, you must remember two major matrimonial alliances that were made. Okay, the first one was that of Chandragupta I and the Licchavi princess Kumara Devi. Chandragupta I, okay, the first great Guptan emperor was married to a Licchavi princess, okay, princess from Licchavi oligarchy. It was an oligarchy at that time. So her name was Kumara Devi. This is something that you must know because question can be asked from this. These are one of the most important alliances in Gupta history because it helped them increase their military strength massively. And every coin of Chandragupta I has this woman Kumara Devi also. Okay, that is the significance of the relationship. So it did help. Another important matrimonial alliances was with the daughter of Chandragupta II. Okay, Chandragupta II or Vikramaditya. His daughter was married to the Vakataka king. Okay, his daughter was married to the Vakataka king. Right? Prabhavati Gupta. Her name was Prabhavati Gupta. So Kumara Devi, Chandragupta I, and then Chandragupta II's daughter, Prabhavati Gupta, was married to the Vakataka king. Okay, so matrimonial alliances helped them. Right? The second one, the Gupta kings did not assume imperial titles due to the feudal nature of administration. That is incorrect. Because why? When you are feudal nature, generally the nature of feudalism, general nature of feudalism is that whenever there is feudalism, there will be what? Higher and higher titles for emperors. Okay, you can see that difference. That is one of the crucial differences between Mauryas and Guptas. If you look at Mauryas titles, Ashokan titles, they said Devanam Piyadasi. Okay, he called himself servant. Okay, the beloved servant of the gods, Piyadasi. Okay. Now, if you look at Guptan titles, they are very high, lofty titles: Maharaja, Adiraja, Adiraja, Mahara Bhattaraga, Parama Bhagavata. Okay. Now, what is the importance of these titles? Because due to feudalism, there was lot of power being given to the local rulers. Okay. When there is local rulers increasing their power, they will have titles. So they will have Rajas at local levels. Okay, there will be Maharajas at provincial levels. So in order to differentiate from them, in feudalism, emperors take bigger and bigger titles. That is why Guptas took imperial titles. So this is incorrect. Guptas took extremely imperial titles. Okay. Then Guptan inscriptions does not show any indication of provincial bureaucracy. Any indication. Is that possible during ancient India? No. Right? When such a large empire is governed and there are so much inscriptions, some evidence must be there of what? Provincial bureaucracy. So that is incorrect. Okay. Any can be considered, sir? One second. Is my sound clarity a problem? Is it audible now? Okay. Is it audible now? Okay, fine. I'll keep the headphone close. Right. So any indication that is a rotten tomato, right? Highly unlikely. Any major dynasty has to have some provincial bureaucracy. Without it, it is impossible. So that is also incorrect. So our answer will be one only. Okay. Now question number 2. In ancient India, the term Shaulkiga referred to. That would be an officer who collected taxes. Okay. Now Shulka. Okay, Shulka was a general tax term for urban taxes, traders, customs, mainly customs duties. Okay. So people coming in and going out of empire had to pay taxes. Okay. So generally it was used throughout history. So if you see a term like Shulka and something attached to it, okay, you can have Shulka Adhikari, different attachments to Shulka. It is likely it is a tax term, right? Always remember that. Okay. So that is D. Okay, it is given in your handout on terminologies. Okay. Regarding your handouts, there is a slight delay in the Buddhist handout because the review is being done. So there is a slight delay. We'll publish it as soon as possible. Okay, possibly by tomorrow itself. Okay. The other handouts will follow before your exams. Medieval Indian handouts will be given tomorrow. Now, question number 3. Consider following statements regarding Guptan period. Okay. First statement is Bhagavata cult gained popularity during Guptan period. Okay. Second term is the term Shatavaha referred to caravan traders. So first question is regarding the religious changes in Guptan period and also regarding the trade. Now, regarding the first statement, Bhagavata cult. What is Bhagavata cult? Bhagavata cult is the cult of Vishnu. Okay. Parama Bhagavata. The titles of Guptas itself said Parama Bhagavata. They compare themselves to Vishnu. Okay. So remember that. It is a Vaishnavite cult. Now, it was this during this period that Gupta period, one of the major changes of Gupta changes that took place during Gupta period was that the whole Hindu pantheon, Shaivism, Bhagavatism, the Shaktism, okay, they all sort of reached their maturity during this period. Okay, and later period additions were made, but their proper formation happened during the Guptan period. Right, the major sects of Hinduism, because Guptans themselves gave a lot of patronage. Okay, you can see their titles Parama Bhagavata. Then the royal symbol was Garuda, okay, which was a Vishnu vehicle of Vishnu according to Hindu mythology. So yeah, so all those things happened. Puranas were compiled during this period. Okay, right? So that is correct. Okay, the idolification of Vishnu and the kind of devotion that we see now, that began during Gupta period. Okay, then Sartavaha. This was an important term during Gupta period and throughout history. Okay, always remember Sartavaha. This can be asked. This is a term given in NCERTs also. Referred to caravan traders. Okay, Sartavaha referred to caravan traders. During Gupta period, some of the municipal authorities mentioned the inscriptions. One of them were Sartavaha, the head of Sartavahas. Okay, head of caravan traders. Right. So this term is also this is also correct. So the answer will be both 1 and 2. Okay. Now question number 4. Which of the following ancient monuments do not belong to Guptan period? Dashavadara Temple, UP. Okay. This is a temple located in Deoghar in UP. Okay. Deoghar in UP. NCERT has many figures from this temple. So that is correct. Okay, that is a Guptan period temple. Then Udaygiri Caves, Madhya Pradesh. We had discussed this while we discussed the previous year's question. Udaygiri Caves in Madhya Pradesh. It's a Vaishnavite cave. Okay, do not confuse it with the Udaygiri Khandagiri cave in Odisha. Those are different things. Udaygiri cave in Madhya Pradesh is a mainly a Vaishnavite cave, and there is a huge relief of Vishnu Aswaraha. Okay, again from Guptan period. Okay, then Ajanta Caves, Maharashtra, also from Guptan period. The only one that does not belong here is Sun Temple, Mathura, which was from the period of Solankis of Gujarat. Okay, it was constructed by Bhima I. Okay, Sun Temple, which is one of the most famous sun temples in India, along with Konark Sun Temple and Konark Sun Temple. Okay, so Sun Temple, Mathura. So the Solankis are also famous for creating the world famous World Heritage Site, Rani Ki Vav. Okay, it was the widow of Bhima I who created Rani Ki Vav. Okay, don't forget that, Rani Ki Vav. Okay, now question number 5. So answer is C. Question number 5 is match the following Indus Valley sites to their corresponding present day locations. Because Indus Valley has been asked, there may be questions regarding to with reference to locations of Indus Valley sites. So go through the basic locations, the main cities. Okay, you may have continued to get some questions from that possibly. Please continue. Just check the map and learn the major sites. Okay, don't go in very much detail. Major sites, their locations. So Harappa is located in Punjab, Pakistan. Dholavira is in Gujarat. Okay, Raghigarh is in Punjab. Raghigarh is in Haryana. These are the largest sites in Indus Valley. Okay, along with Mohenjo-daro. These 4 are the largest sites in Indus Valley civilization. Okay. Right. Yeah, is there a doubt? Okay. So the answer will be 1B, 2A, and 3C. So D, right? Okay. Now question number 6 is regarding Sangam Society or Sangam Works. Okay, the question is regarding Sangam Works. Okay. Now the question is Puram Nanur is part of collection of Sangam Works. Okay, Puram Nanur. Now you might be knowing Sangam Works are divided into Agam and Puram. Okay, so one of the 2 compilations is Puram Nanur and Agam Nanur. Right, you might be familiar with the terms Agam and Puram. So one of the collections is Agam and Agam Nanur and Puram Nanur. So that is correct, right? Now just remember the structure of Sangam Works. Okay, let me draw it for you here. The Sangam Works are divided into 2 set of works. Okay, one is Ettu Togai, the other one is Pattu Paattu. Okay, these are 2 sets. Okay, together they are also known as Padinan Mel Kanakku. Padinan as in 18. Ettu Togai plus Pattu Paattu. 8 plus 10. They are known as Padinan Mel Kanakku. Okay, Padinan Mel Kanakku. Okay, now Agam Nanur and Puram Nanur are part of Ettu Togai. Okay, right. So that is how this whole works is divided: Ettu Togai and Pattu Paattu, which are together known as Padinan Mel Kanakku. There is another set of works known as Padinan Keel Kanakku, which are mostly post Sangam works. The core Sangam works are classified under Padinan Mel Kanakku to Ettu Togai and Pattu Paattu. That is the basic thing you must know. Okay, I don't go into the details. That is the basic thing. Okay. Now, question then statement number 2. Worship of Nayanas became a common practice during this period. That is incorrect, right? Nayanas were part of Bhakti movement, early Bhakti movement. They were the beginners of Bhakti movement. They lived in early medieval period. Okay, they lived in early medieval period, so they were not part of Sangam society, right? Somebody earlier asked question whether Raghigarh is the largest of Indian sites. See, as of now, Raghigarh is the largest, but more excavations are being done at many sites. So Dholavira and Raghigarh, I think are very close now. Okay, I'm not sure about that. You can check it, right? Now, so worship of Nayanas became a common practice during this way. That is correct. Third statement is Ulavar was a term used for peasants. Okay, for if you use your Malayalam logic, you know that this is correct. Okay, Ulavar. You have a similar words in Malayalam also. So Ulavar is a term used for peasants. It is a term given in NCERT. So please note that Uravar is a term given in NCERT for peasants of Sangam period. Okay, so the answer is 1 and 3. There are also two terms that you must remember. Apart from Uravar, other terms given in NCERT is, one is this, Adimai is a term for slaves. Okay, another term is that of Velar. Velar is feudal chieftains, okay, or landlords. More appropriate term is feudal chiefs. Okay, so that is Velar, and there is Vendor, who are kings. Okay, we have Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. Okay, those were Vendor, Vendor. Okay, refer to three kings: Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. Then below them had Velar or chieftains. Below them were Uravar, and bottom of the structure was Adimai or slaves. These are terms given in NCERT. Okay, so go through them. Remember that. Question number 7. Consider following statements about Indus Valley civilization. Okay, rice was extensively used by the people of Indus Valley civilization. That is incorrect. Okay, that is incorrect. Rice was not extensively used. The most important crops were wheat and barley. Okay, the evidence about rice is very minimal. Only in a few sites we have found what rice, because most of the sites in Indus Valley were located in the northwest, where the climate is more suitable for what wheat cultivation. Okay, wheat, maize, these were the wheat was a main crop. Okay, then urban centers in the civilization had fortified citadels. That is correct. That is a basic part of Indus Valley architecture. Okay. So the answer is 2 only. Okay. The question number 8. The terms Syadavada and Nyayavada are associated with. The answer is Jainism. Okay. There are 3 main philosophies, associated philosophies in Jainism. Syadavada and Nyayavada are very similar. The same things basically. Another associated thing is Anekantavada. Basically, they all are theories of relativity. Basically, they say that truth is relative. It depends on what perspective you use. Okay. Okay. Now, question number 9. Which of the following constitutes Triratnas of Jainism? Which of the following constitutes Triratnas of Jainism? What are the 3 Ratnas? Okay. The 3 Ratnas of Buddhism are what? Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay. The 3 Ratnas of Jainism are right conduct or right action, right knowledge, and right faith. Okay. These are the 3 Ratnas of Jainism. Okay. Question number 10. Which of the following features differentiate Buddhism from Jainism? Which of the following features differentiates Buddhism from Jainism? Differences. Okay, we had discussed this while discussing previous year questions. Okay, what are the differences? One is Jainism gave more prominence to lay followers than monks. Okay, while Buddhism relied mainly on Sangha and its monks. That is incorrect. Okay, because in Jainism there is a distinctive focus on what? Monks, because you need monks only monks can get Kaivalya in Jainism. Okay. The statement B, founder of Buddhism belonged to Kshatriya Varna, while that of Jainism was Vaishya. That is incorrect. Both were Kshatriyas. Okay. Then Jainism prescribed asceticism as necessary for salvation, while Buddhism did not. That is correct. Okay. Because in Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism especially, salvation can be achieved both by common people as well as monks. Okay. But for Jainism, to expel karma, you needed severe ascetic practices. Okay. So, yeah. The 3 things of Buddhism are Buddham, Sangham, and Dharmam. Okay. Now, while Buddhism accepted the doctrines of karma and rebirth, Jainism rejected it. That is incorrect. Both accepts it. Okay. So the answer is C. Okay. Now we can also see that these two things, they are what? Logically inconsistent in the inconsistent statements, right? Because if Jainism gave more prominence to lay followers, then Jainism prescribing asceticism as necessary for salvation should be incorrect. Okay, so only one of them can be incorrect. I mean, correct, right? There is a distinctive incoherence between the two statements. So one of them has to be correct. So even if you don't know, you could have used that logic. Okay. The question number 11. Consider following statements and identify the correct ones. Territorial states became common during Rigvedic period. That is incorrect. Because why? Territorial states emerged during the period of Mahajanapadas. Okay, the first territorial states emerged during later Vedic period. The first term used was Janapadas. Okay, and they were all small states. The concept of territory emerged only when agriculture emerged, and this happened in later Vedic period. Rigvedic period, pasture society, territorial states were not common. It was tribal societies. Okay, they moved from one place to another. So that is incorrect. Now, there is absence of woman dynasty divinities during the early Vedic period. That is incorrect. This is one of the reasons why we say there was considerable inequality between women and men during early Vedic period, because the number of hymns dedicated to woman divinities are high. Aditi, Prithvi, there are many divinities mentioned in early Vedic texts. So that is also incorrect. Okay. Then presents and spoils of war were distributed in some Vedic assemblies. That is correct. Okay, you know that Sabha, Vidata, some of them distributed war spoils. That was one of the functions. Okay. So 1 and 2 are incorrect. Answer is 3 only, right? Okay. Next, question number 12. Consider following statements regarding consider following statements and identify the right ones regarding the councils. Okay. So first, Jain Council. You just need to know the basics of councils. Don't go into details. Okay. There were 3 Jain councils. Okay. The first, all of them were used for compiling Jain texts. Okay. So the first Jain council was held after the death of, after many years after the death of Mahavira. Okay, there is no clear time period. There are debates on the time period, and the main purpose was for the compilation of Angas, okay, or Agamas, the holy text of Jains. That was the primary purpose. Okay, now only Svedambaras accept that. One of the differences between Svedambaras and Digambaras is that Svedambaras accept that the texts compiled were genuine. Digambaras say that the texts were not genuine. They were all lost. So the reproductions were not correct. So the compilations were false. Okay. So that was the one of the differences. Anyway, the purpose was to collect Jain texts. Okay. Then second, regarding second Buddhist council, formation of Sthaviravadins in Buddhism. We had discussed Sthaviravadins while discussing previous questions. So that is an important statement. Now, Sthaviravadin sect in Buddhism was formed during Second Buddhist Council. Okay, Second Buddhist Council, right? Now, again, you should have the basic information regarding first, second, third, and fourth Buddhist councils. That will be given in a handout. I'm not going to go into the details. Now, here in the Second Buddhist Council, there were 2 main sects, Sthaviravadins and Mahasanghikas. Okay, these are 2 major. This was the first split in Buddhism. Before Hinayana, Mahayana, and everything happened, the first sect in Buddhism happened between these 2 sects, Sthaviravadins and Mahasanghikas. Okay, then question number, so the answer is, first one is correct, second one is also correct. So answer is both 1 and 2. Okay, now question number 13. With reference to Mauryan economy, consider the following statements. It was characterized by extensive state regulation and control over economic activities. That is correct. Okay, Mauryan Empire was a very centralized empire. Okay, then proliferation of land grants as payment for royal officials. That is incorrect. because it was a centralized empire, land grants were not made. Everyone was paid in salaries, theoretically at least. Okay, from what we know, they were paid in salaries. Land grants were not made because that would have implied some loss of authority for the emperor. So that did not happen. It was a very centralized emperor. Okay, so the land grants phenomena became prominent from the time of Guptas. The first earliest evidences of land grants extensively is from the time of Shatavahanas. Okay, they were the first dynasty. Inscriptions mention Shatavahanas as the first major dynasty to give land grants on a large scale. Right. After that, Guptas followed, and during a post-Gupta period, this became very prominent. Okay. Then well-organized system of tax collection, that is also correct. So answer is 1 and 3 only. Okay, 1 and 3 only. The question number 14. Which of the following events are related to pre-Mauryan period? So period before Mauryas. Okay. So first one, emergence of Kharoshthi script. That is correct. Okay. Well, how did Kharoshthi script emerge? With the invasion of Persians. Okay, with the interactions with Persians. Persians have the script known as Aramaic. Okay, from that we got Kharoshthi. Okay, so right, so that is correct. It happened in around 400 BC. Okay, 400 to 300 BC, just before the arrival of Mauryans. And Ashoka has used this script extensively in his scriptures inscriptions in Northwest. So that is correct. Second one, beginning of construction of large structural temples. No, that happened from the Guptan period. Okay, large structural temples in Hinduism emerged only in Guptan period. Before that, most of the temple structures were cave architecture only. Then emergence of cult of Bodhisattva in Buddhism. That is also incorrect, because that happened with the evolution of Mahayana Buddhism, which emerged only in the post-Mauryan period. Okay, post-Mauryan period. So answer is 1 only. Okay. Okay. Right. Now question number 15 is regarding the king Rudradaman and an inscription about King Rudradaman. Okay. Now this is a text taken from NCERT. Okay. So you must be very familiar with this. Now you are asked to identify the inscription from the text regarding, which is an inscription regarding Sudarshana Lake. Okay. The construction of which began during the reign of Chandragupta Maurya. The inscription is Girnar inscription. Okay. This is a very important inscription, because in this place there are inscriptions from Ashoka, then in the post-Mauryan period from Rudradaman, who was a king from Kshatrapa dynasty. Okay, Rudradaman in the post-Mauryan period. Then there is also an inscription from the period of Skandagupta. Okay, so 3 inscriptions from 3 periods. That is the importance of Girnar inscription. Okay, at the same place there are 3 inscriptions. Okay, right. Hadigomba inscription is regarding a king from Odisha named as Karavela. Okay, that is only what you need to know about this. In the post-Mauryan period, there was a main king known as Karavela from Hadigomba. Okay, Karavela from Odisha, and his main inscription is Hadigomba inscription. Okay, gives a lot of details regarding the post-Mauryan polity. Okay, now question number 16. The Chinese traveler Fa Hian, who visited India, has recorded general condition culture of India at that time. In the context of this, which of the following statements is correct? Practice of untouchability was well established. That is correct. Okay, this is clearly noted in NCERT that both Fa Hian and Huan Sang has said that untouchability was practiced, and the untouchables, okay, people who did jobs that were considered untouchables, they were forced to live outside the cities. Okay, they had to make noise while they were passing streets so that people could stay away. Both Huan Sang and Fa Hian has mentioned about discriminatory practices. So Fa Hian, who came during Guptan period, Chandragupta II's period, and Huan Sang, who came during Harshavardhana's period, both have mentioned about this. Okay, remember that. What is the second statement? He states that the foundation of Nalanda monastery was led by Kumaragupta I. Now, what is the crucial difference between the accounts of Fahian and Huensang? Fahian does not mention Nalanda. At the same time, Huensang mentions about Nalanda. Okay, and he studied there for many years, and he says that the foundation was laid by Kumaragupta I, okay, who was the son of Chandragupta II. Okay, so he was one of the last major Guptan emperors. Okay, so that is one of the differences. So Fahian does not say it. This was said by Huensang. Okay, again, this is also a statement given by NCERT only. Okay, so what is the result? Answer is A, one only. Okay, now question number 17.
ഒന്നരാടൻ കഴിഞ്ഞ ആഴ്ചയൊക്കെ ഡെയിലി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ പരിപാടി ഉണ്ട്. നിശ തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് പോകുന്നവരെ വളർത്തണം എന്ന് വിചാരിച്ച്. എനിക്കും നിങ്ങൾ ശരിയായിക്കോട്ടെ.
Question number 17. Consider following statements. Pulikeshi I was the founder of Chalukya dynasty of Vadapi. Okay. Question number 17. First statement. Pulikeshi I was the founder of Chalukya dynasty of Vadapi. That is correct. He was the founder. Okay. Pulikeshi I was the founder of Chalukyas of Badami or Vadapi. Both are same cities. Okay. Vadapi or Badami. Now question number statement 2. Pulikeshi II was the contemporary of Harshavardhana. That is also correct. Okay. Pulikeshi II was the greatest king of this Chalukya dynasty, Chalukyas of Badami. Okay. One second. Okay. So Pulikeshi II was a contemporary of Harshavardhana. That is correct. He was a contemporary of Harshavardhana as well as the Pallava kings. Okay. Pallava kings like Mahendravarman I and Narasimhavarman. Okay. He was a contemporary of them, and he had constant fights with all of them. And he defeated Harshavardhana. He was the person who stopped Harshavardhana from invading south. Okay, south of Narmada. Okay. And this is mentioned in his inscription known as Aihole inscription, written by Ravi Kirti. Again, NCERT based information. Please note. Aihole inscription of okay. So both statements are correct. Now question number 18. Consider following statements about Vedanta school of philosophy. Vedanta is one of the 6 systems of philosophy, right? Now it recognizes the theory of karma. Okay, that is correct. Okay, all the 6 schools recognize the theory of karma. Okay, that karma is what makes us, decides our cycle of births. Okay, now second part, it advocates Vedic rituals as the primary way to attain salvation. That is incorrect. Okay, they focus on more on Vedanta focuses more on what? Asceticism. Okay, meditation, knowledge. Okay, knowledge is seen as a way of liberation. Okay, and mostly this was expounded by Adi Shankara. Okay. Okay, right. So, and that is incorrect. Now, who advocated Vedic rituals as a primary way to attain salvation? That would be Mimamsa. Okay. Mimamsa is the school of philosophy that said Vedic rituals are the way to attain salvation. You must know the basics of all these philosophies, right? It will be part of your handout. Okay. Question number 19. So the answer is one only. Okay. Question number 19. Which of the following statements are correct? Okay. In general, sons automatically succeeded Rajas of Rigveda. That is incorrect. One of the specialities of Rigveda. Rigveda is a period where the first time monarchy was emerging. Okay, and councils had a lot of control over the king. Hence, sons did not automatically succeed Rajas. Okay. The Rajas of kings of Rigveda are not the same kings as we see in the rest of history. They were controlled by tribal polities. You know that. So in general, the succession was not hereditary. It depended on the councils. So that is incorrect. Rigvedic composers describe themselves as Aryans. That is correct. Okay, they describe themselves as Aryans, and the rest were called as Dasas, Dasyus. Okay, there are many terms used. Okay, so that is correct. Then during Vedic period, slaves were considered as the property of their owners. That is also correct. Okay, slavery was there. Mostly slaves were captured during the war, and they were considered as property of their owners. So 2 and 3. Now question number 20. Which of the following works gives an account of history during the Mauryan period? That is Mahavamsha. That is correct. Okay, you might know this regarding Ashoka. Okay, we got the name Ashoka as a famous Mauryan emperor from 2 textbooks. Okay, both of which were preserved in Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan Buddhism, right? And those texts were known as Deepavamsha and Mahavamsha, which are chronicles of kings. Okay, chronicles of kings. So they mention Ashoka by name, right? So that is the crucial period. That is the importance of these texts, Mahavamsha and Deepavamsha. The rest of them are not related to Guptan period. The Mauryan period. Devi Chandraguptam by Vishakadatta. Okay, that talks about, although it talks Chandragupta, that Chandragupta is the King Chandragupta of, or Vikramaditya of Gupta Empire. Okay, this was a play that was set in Gupta Empire regarding Chandragupta II. Okay, the question stage 3, Mrjakatika. Mrjakatika, again, it was written by Shudraka, does not mention about Mauryan period. This is mainly related to the period of the Mahajanapadas. Okay, and it talks about the Pratyodha dynasty. You don't need that. Anyway, it is not from Mauryan period. So the answer is 1 only. Okay. The question number 21 is regarding Ashoka's policy of Dhamma. Now you know that Ashoka was Ashoka adopted Dhamma as his policy. Now specialities of Dhamma. Okay, the philosophy of Ashoka is given in NCERT. The most important point is that Dhamma was a secular philosophy. It intended to unite people under some philosophical principles. Okay, it was not aligned to any particular religion. Some of the principles of Buddhism was integrated into it. Okay, so first statement, under his principles, Ashoka became an extreme pacifist and disbanded his army. Incorrect. Okay, he did not disband his army, and the army was well intact till his death. Okay, and his successors also had comparatively strong armies. Okay, so first one is incorrect. The purpose of Dhamma was the propagation of Buddhism throughout Mauryan Empire. That is incorrect, because it clearly says the philosophy generally is secular in nature. Remember that. Okay, NCERTs talk about this philosophy. It is secular. It only talks about respect for all religions, and all the principles are not Buddha's teachings. Okay, there is considerable elements of infusion from Ashoka's own philosophies. Right, so that is incorrect. Then he appointed special officers for the propagation of Dharma. That is correct. Okay, his officers were known as Dhamma Mahamatas. Okay, or Dharma Mahamatas. Okay, Mahamatas again is a term used for bureaucracy throughout many phases in history, especially during Mauryan period. Mahamatas or Mahamatras. Okay, and similar to Mantris. Okay, Mahamatas, and the Mahamatas for Dharma propagation were known as Dharma Mahamatas or Dhamma Mahamatas. Okay, so answer is 1 is incorrect, 2 is correct, 2 is incorrect. So answer is 3 only. Now question number 22. The terms Maharadi and Mahabhoja is related to feudal military generals. Okay, these were all mostly titles from post Mauryan period. Post Mauryan period, there was no elaborate administrative system, and powers were given to military generals to rule an area, similar to Ikta system of later periods. Okay, or Amaranaka system. Okay, so Maharadi, Mahabhoja, then satraps. Okay, this was under Kushanas. Okay, satraps, Maharadi, Mahabhoja, they are all feudal military generals. These terms were mainly used by Shatavahanas. Anyway, you don't need to know that. You need to know that these 3 are feudal military generals or vassals. Okay. Now question number 23 regarding Shatavahanas. Okay. Succession dynasty always followed a matrilineal descent. That is incorrect. Okay. First thing, no major dynasty in history followed matrilineal descent except one. We had in dynasties in Kerala, okay, which for example, Travancore dynasty formed a matrilineal descent. Otherwise, almost all the major dynasties followed patrilineal descent only. Okay, which means that what is patrilineal? Matrilineal. Patrilineal means that the son becomes what? The next ruler. The son of the current ruler becomes the ruler. Okay. The Shatavahanas often had their names by the name of mothers. Gautami Putra Shatakarni. Okay. That showed that there were some elements of matrilineality, but from the inscriptions it is clear that the succession was mostly patrilineal only. Perhaps the woman had certain powers, queens had certain powers, but the succession was highly patrilineal. Okay. Okay. Right. Shatavahanas followed a patrilineal descent rather than matrilineal descent. Okay, so that is incorrect. Next, statement 2. The first coins in the subcontinent to bear the names and images of rulers were issued by them. No, NCERT says that they were created by Indo-Greeks. Okay, so before till the period of Mauryans, we mainly had punch-marked coins. Okay, punch-marked coins means there was no clear inscription of rulers. We did not know who issued it. Okay, there was no dates. Okay, but from the period of post-Mauryan period, we have coins with clear names and clear images of rulers. The first rulers to issue it were Indo-Greeks. Okay, later people like Kushanas issued gold coins on a large scale, and that too had images of the ruler. Later Gupta coins also have the images of people. Okay, for example, I said Chandragupta I and Kumara Devi, both images were there in Gupta coins. Okay, so the first dynasty to issue coins in subcontinent with clear images and names, there were Indo-Greeks. Now this is a firm statement because it is given in NCERT. So if you UPSC asks it, have no confusion, it was the Indo-Greeks. Okay, right? And the first dynasty to issue, from archaeological available evidences, the first dynasty to issue gold coins on a large scale was Kushanas. Okay, Kushanas. Okay, Guptas also issued later. Guptas also issued large gold coins, but first to issue large gold coins on a large scale was Kushanas. Clear? So 2 is correct. So sorry, 2 is incorrect. Okay, so answer is D. Neither 1 nor 2. Okay. Now question number 24. With reference to ancient Indian history, which of the following was an important port city on Arabian Sea? Okay. Again, this is also an NCERT based question. Now, Arabian Sea port. Okay. Just remember this port. Okay. Baruch. It is also known as Bari Gaza. Okay. In Greek text, it was known as Bari Gaza, or currently it is also known as Broch. Okay. Bari Gaza, Broch. These are all the same port, also known as Brugukkacha. Okay, same port located in present-day Gujarat on the mouths of Narmada. Okay, there are only few ports that NCERT. Now there is only a couple of ports that NCERT mentions, and one of them is Bharuch. Okay, so very important port, one of the most important ports during ancient period, throughout ancient period, right? So that is correct. Now look, what were the other cities? Chandraketugarh. Chandraketugarh was one of the most important ports from Bengal. It was a port from Bengal. Okay, Bengal had 2 main ports, Chandraketugarh and Tamralipti. Okay, Tamralipti and Chandraketugarh were the 2 main ports of Bengal. So it was on Bay of Bengal. Okay, not on Arabian Sea. So right, Kodumalam was an important work site in Tamil Nadu. Okay, it was an important work site or craft workshop. Again, that is also site given in NCERT, descriptions given in NCERT. So remember that Kodumanal and Broch. Okay, the other ones are not given, description is not given in NCERT, so it's okay. This 2 you must know. Kodumanal is a site in Tamil Nadu with a lot of workshops. Okay, Bharuch, port city, mouths of Narmada, Gujarat. Okay. Now question number 25. Which of the following events were associated with Kushana rule in India? Madras School of Art developed? Yes, both Madurai and Gandhara School of Art developed in this period. Okay. Then trade with Roman Empire increased? Yes. Okay, this was the Kushana period was the peak of Roman trade in India. Okay, both South India and North India had trade relations with Rome, both on land and as well as through sea. Okay, our ports like Muziris, everything developed during this period. Okay, and one more thing, when you are asked a question on period of a dynasty, okay, period of a dynasty means the time period of that dynasty. Okay, it does not mean something done by that dynasty. Okay, for example, if I asked about the period of Guptas, okay, which of the following happened during the period of Guptas, and you are asked about the construction of Ajanta caves. Now, construction of Ajanta caves may not be done by Guptas, but it did belong to the period of Guptas. Okay, so you must clearly make out the difference. Just because somebody did not construct something does not make it what not their period. Okay, so when you are asked about the period, you must think about the time period. When you are asked about Kushana period route, Kushana period, that is a reference to post-Mauryan period. Okay, so think in that line rather than thinking on whether Kushanas did it or Guptas did it. I have seen some people making that mistake. Okay, don't do that. You are talking about the time period only, right? So trade with Roman Empire increased both in North India and South India. Ajanta cave construction were completed? No, that happened during Gupta period only. Okay, much later. Okay, so first and second statement is correct. Answer is B. Okay, so these are our 25 questions for today, right? Please go through the handouts which will be published soon, right? And we have published a handout on terminologies. Okay, while using it, don't try to by heart it. It's impossible. So go through that. Try to find out commonalities. Okay, as I said, for example, Matas. Okay, always refer to some important official. There will be some terms which are root terms. Okay, and anything attached to that will come to the same term. Okay, so try to use some linguistics and evolve common protocols. There will be some terms which are not there, which cannot be decoded like that. So read through that. Try to understand it. That is it. Don't try to by heart all the 200, 300 terms given there. Okay, right? And when you are studying, study the terms given in Gupta period, Chola period, Mauryan period. Okay, that you must learn the important bureaucratic terms. Okay, the other periods that is not so important. So read through it. Okay, if you have any doubts, you may ask it now. See, the first rulers to issue the gold coins. Okay, first rulers. No, I'm saying there was a doubt regarding first ruler. NCERT says that the first rulers to issue gold coins on a large scale was Kushanas. Okay, Kushanas.